And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern, currently 7:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Eastern here. And my name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. And I just wanted to throw in that advertisement for Peace Pads, which is founded by our brother Riza Islam. And you can check out Peace Pads at peacepads.net or peacepads.org, and I will make sure to link that in the repost of the stream. And it's very important, we don't think about, I no longer, you know, have my cycle. I'm kind of a fixed person, but for young women out there, it is very important to really look at the products and the ingredients in those products and making sure that they're safe, right? Because there's so many things that we have to look at. Like, we were looking at things by Bill Gates yesterday and just making sure that people are healthy, right? And making sure that the products that are on the market are keeping us healthy. So, with that, there were a few things that Donald Trump talked about yesterday. I'm going to get into his speeches, but I wanted to point out something that he did, and I didn't know if you guys were aware of this. It's been I want to say it's been something on the table, right, that he's talked about, but has it really moved forward? Well, here we are. He's moving it. So apparently, he has stopping Wall Street from competing with Main Street homebuyers. Now, this has been a large discussion that everybody's been having. I think in essence, a lot of people, when they were having this discussion, they were like, okay, we know the BlackRock and Vanguard, we know they're buying up all the properties, but what is it going to look at to make them stop buying these properties? Because what happened was they artificially inflated these properties, artificially inflating everything else. But like I said, Donald Trump says a few things in the clips I'm going to show. But the one thing that he brought up that I thought was fascinating is he says, corporations, when they were buying up these homes, they could actually depreciate the houses. And, with business, depreciating basically means you can write off the property, right? And what it does is it lowers your taxable income because it's a write off. And he was like, home buyers can't do that. And they're fighting to stay in their homes, but they don't get the benefit of depreciation, right? So I don't think that's going to be written into this. I don't think, unfortunately, that home buyers are going to get that benefit. But what I do hope is that we get to a point where, we're not paying property taxes, especially if you bought your house, you should not have to pay property taxes. Property taxes. Now, for other city, what do you call it? City agencies like your fire department or your police department, or and if you don't have any kids, you shouldn't even be paying for school. Why are you paying for school taxes, which they are really high. Really, really high. But see, they clump all that in and they call it property tax. Why should you be on the hook if you've paid for your home, right? You shouldn't. If your house is paid off, you should never have to pay property taxes. Like, I can understand paying for like fire, police. If you still have kids going to school, okay, yeah, I can see you paying taxes for that. But other than that, no. And see, in my opinion, what's happened is these local officials, they've gotten so comfortable with just raising people's property taxes. Oh, well, the evaluation's going up. So, your house is worth more and this, that, and the other. So you have to pay more in property taxes. Like, but you're not doing anything better with the money. There's still potholes in the streets, right? Things are still running amok in the city. It looks crazy, but yet you keep charging people more and more and more because you can. Doesn't mean you should. So there needs to be, like, in my opinion, like a whole revamping of how we've been doing things on that level. But it says, by authority vested in me as president of the Constitution and the laws of the United States. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I just wanted to point this out. Section 1. Buying and owning a home has long been considered the pinnacle of the American dream and a way for families to invest and build lifetime wealth. But because of the recent high inflation and interest rates caused by the previous administration, and even further that, again, it goes beyond, in my opinion, the Biden administration. Okay, that the American dream has been increasingly out of reach for too many of our citizens, especially first time home buyers. At the same time, a growing share of single family homes, often concentrated in certain communities, have been purchased by large Wall Street investors, crowding out families seeking to buy homes. Hardworking young families cannot effectively compete for starter homes with Wall Street firms and their vast resources. Neighborhoods and communities once controlled by middle class American families are now run by faraway corporate interests. People live in homes, not corporations, right? So, my administration will take divisive action to stop Wall Street from treating Americans' neighborhoods like a trading floor and empower American families to own their homes, to preserve the supply of single family homes for American families and increase the paths to home ownership. It is the policy of my administration that large institutional investors should not buy single family homes that could otherwise be purchased by families. And I'll stop there and I'll make sure to link um, this in the repost. But yeah, he's saying the quiet part out loud. And I won't say the quiet part out loud. He's saying what Americans have been saying for a while. But remember, back in 2020, there was that video that was released by the World Economic Forum because they just were like, let's throw our weight around. You will be happy and own nothing. They wanted everybody to just be constant renters, rent your house, rent your car. They even have, look, they've got hubcaps that you can put on your cars that you can rent. It's called Rent a Wheel. It's in California. It's crazy. Really? Rent everything? You can rent clothes, shoes. Yes, they do have services like that. It's kind of crazy. But they want everybody in a renting capacity, not in an owning capacity. Because, see, people that are owners, they demand things. But people that are renters are always subjected to the people that they're renting from because they have no ownership stake. They have no say. So, when I saw those videos back in 2020, I was like, oh, they just want a whole new class of slaves. I'm not wrong. And they're still on that trajectory. But now you've got President Trump in the way saying, okay, no, people are going to have ownership of their homes as they should because we're Americans, and that is a part of the American dream. Now, a lot of people might get upset and be like, well, I don't like him and this, that, and the third. Okay, you don't have to like him. I like this policy, though. This is what I voted for. I voted for this to shut this down. Now, Congress is going to have to solidify this law. So I would encourage all of you to call the White House and let me see if I can find it in my banners because sometimes yes, let me see if I can show it and it'll show up. Yes, to call the White House or their comment line. It's 202-456-1111. Again, that number is 202-456-1111. Or you can email comments@whitehouse.gov. That's comments@whitehouse.gov. And let them know where you are at on this because they need to hear us. They need to know that we are, we want this change and we want Congress to make this the law. And it's weird because why wasn't it? Oh, that's right. Because they're in a lot of the pockets of the congressmen and women that we have there. And a lot of these congressmen and women, they're on and okay with people not owning anything and being happy. It's very sad. Truly, truly sad. So let's go on. Let's see some of the remarks that President Trump has had since he's been at Davos.
Those moments overseas between President Trump, Governor Gavin Newsom, and the ongoing threat over Greenland. Thank you for joining us. I'm Alex Bell. Governor Newsom is in Davos this weekend, attending the World Economic Forum along with a few other governors. But today, Newsom's team tells ABC 10 the governor's first speaking event was abruptly canceled under pressure from the White House. Now, we'll get to what was said in just a moment and also the Trump administration's response. But first, Karen Travers is at the White House tonight reporting on President Trump's speech in Davos and that ongoing threat to take over Greenland.
President Trump says he will not use force for the U.S. to acquire Greenland, but European leaders say they're hitting pause on a trade deal as the president threatens new tariffs.
President Trump posting on social media that after meeting with NATO's Secretary General, he has a, quote, framework of a future deal on Greenland. He provided no details of what a deal would include, but said Vice President Vance and Secretary of State Rubio would lead negotiations on the U.S. Golden Dome missile defense system and Greenland. The president also saying he's backing off his threat of new tariffs on 8 NATO allies. But earlier, the president dug in.
This enormous unsecured island is actually part of North America, on the northern frontier of the Western Hemisphere. That's our territory.
But the president at the World Economic Forum in Davos stepping back from his previous rhetoric that suggested he could use the military to make that happen.
People thought I would use force. I don't have to use force. I don't want to use force. I won't use force.
The president was asked later why he took the military option off the table.
I don't think it'll be necessary. I really don't. Okay. I think people are going to use better judgment. They'll use their best judgment, and I don't think that will not be necessary.
And his message and warning to Denmark and NATO.
They have a choice. You can say yes, and we will be very appreciative, or you can say no, and we will remember.
The president maintains it's the U.S. alone that can protect Greenland, but European leaders are pushing back strongly.
The future of Greenland is only for the Greenlanders to decide.
President Trump says he'll meet on the sidelines of Davos tomorrow with Ukraine's President Zelensky. He said today they're reasonably close to reaching a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine, but the president has expressed similar optimism before, and no deal has been reached. Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
Tonight, during President Trump's speech in Davos, he called out Governor Gavin Newsom in a moment that was actually captured by C-SPAN. Take a look.
I used to get along so great with Gavin when I was president. Gavin's a good guy.
Again, C-SPAN posted this video on Instagram today showing President Trump speaking. Then you saw the camera kind of pan there. It panned over to Newsom in the crowd. The governor laughing, even trying to hold back a laugh during the speech where President Trump said that he helped a lot in Los Angeles last year and that his administration has cut down on crime. The president also saying that starting immediately, there will be no more payments to sanctuary cities. Now, all of this came as Governor Newsom's office says that the governor's first speaking event was canceled due to pressure from the Trump administration, despite the event being held by Fortune magazine. Now, Newsom's team says the governor was instead offered a VIP nightcap reception for off-the-record drinks, which he declined. When Trump's Treasury Secretary spoke today in Davos, he had a message for the governor.
And I can tell my message to Governor Newsom is the Trump administration is coming to California. We are going to crack down on waste, fraud, and abuse. And I was told he was asked to give a speech on his signature policies, but he's not speaking. Because what have his economic policies brought? Outward migration from California, a gigantic budget deficit, the largest homeless population in America, and the poor folks in the Palisades who had their homes burned down. He is here hobnobbing with the global elite while his California citizens are still homeless. Shame on him. He is too smug, too self-absorbed, and too economically illiterate to know anything.
Well, ABC 10 has reached out to Governor Newsom's office for comment about these statements, and we have not heard back yet. Meanwhile, Governor Newsom has a speaking event scheduled in Davos at 11:30 tonight, local time. Now, people online are asking who is funding the governor's trip to Davos. People are asking, is it the taxpayers? Who is it? So, of course, we wanted to know, too. In a statement from the governor's office tonight, ABC 10 is told, quote, consistent with previous trips and across multiple administrations, Democratic and Republican, the governor and his staff's travel is not funded by taxpayers. This trip is supported through non-state funds via the California State Protocol Foundation. The California State Protocol Foundation is a nonprofit that uses private donations rather than taxpayer funds to pay for certain expenditures of the governor's office.
Yeah. And more than likely, it is a 501c4 because a 501c4 is similar to a 501c3. However, you can take donations and those donors do not have to be disclosed. So this is how sometimes people fund their 501c3s. They'll have a 501c4 where anybody can donate to them, even terrorist organizations, by the way. I just want to let you know that. And then they will funnel the money into their 501c3, right? Saying, okay, we're getting donations from the 4 to the 3, and then they will carry out whatever functions are of their 501c3, which is a tax-free organization. So yeah, that's kind of the game in the background, just to let you know. And it is very fascinating. It's like, why can't you say who's funding you? You're saying it's not the taxpayers. So who is it? You're hanging out with Alex Soros. Now we're going to go back to those statements made by Scott Bissett. And this is just an expansion of his remarks. I'm not going to play the whole video of his remarks, but I just wanted to give a little bit more context, give Scott a little bit more airtime.
In the Trump administration.
Governor calls you smug. Are you smug?
Yeah, you know, I think it's very, very ironic that, you know, Governor Newsom, who strikes me as Patrick Bateman meets Sparkle Beach Ken, may be the only Californian who knows less about economics than Kamala Harris. He's here this week with his billionaire sugar daddy, Alex Soros, and the Davos is the perfect place for a man who, when everyone else was on lockdown, when he was having people arrested for going to church, he was having $1,000 a night meals at the French Laundry, and I'm sure the California people won't forget that. And I can tell my message to Governor Newsom is the Trump administration is coming to California. We are going to crack down on waste, fraud, and abuse. And I was told he was asked to give a speech on his signature policies, but he's not speaking because what have his economic policies brought? Outward migration from California, a gigantic budget deficit, the largest homeless population in America, and the poor folks in the Palisades who had their homes burned down. He is here hobnobbing with the global elite while his California citizens are still homeless. Shame on him. He is too smug, too self-absorbed, and too economically illiterate to know anything.
Thank you very much.
Let me know if you need any further clarification.
And that goes for all of you, if you need any more clarification on that. Next question, please, gentlemen. Second row with glasses, name and outlet, please. Thank you.
Good morning, Jamie Keaton, Associated Press. Thank you, Secretary, for coming to see us again. Yesterday, the S&P 500 dropped more than 2%. Gold and silver hit new highs, and the European Union Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said that U.S. tariffs over Greenland were a mistake, and President Macron has mentioned the use of the EU's anti-coercion measures. All after you said, as you've said this morning as well, that people need to take a breath over this situation. What conversations have you had with EU and other counterparts to help stabilize markets and to help convince them to take a breath? And I'd just like to add, how concerned are you that institutional investors in Europe may be pulling out of treasuries, such as from pension funds in Denmark and elsewhere?
Well, the size, Denmark's investment in U.S. Treasury bonds, like Denmark itself, is irrelevant. That it's less than $100 million. They've been selling treasuries for years. I'm not concerned at all. Again, as Treasury Secretary, I see our Treasury auctions. We've had record foreign investment. And also, as I said yesterday, I think it is very difficult to disaggregate any of the noise around Greenland, around these inflammatory statements by President Macron, by President van der Leyen, from